Are you in a relationship with someone who makes you feel bad? Do you constantly feel criticized, judged, or manipulated? If so, you may be in a relationship with a toxic person. In this video, we will give you some signs that you are attached to a toxic person and tips on how to let a toxic person go from your life. A toxic person is one who has a negative impact on your emotional and psychological well-being. These people can be manipulative, controlling, abusive, or simply negative. In this guide, we explore how to identify harmful patterns in your daily interactions. You will learn to recognize the signs of manipulation and how to defend yourself effectively. We will provide you with strategies to regain your voice and establish healthy boundaries in your relationships. Beyond mere observation, the recognition of toxic behaviors stands as a fundamental act of self-protection. By identifying these harmful dynamics, we take a crucial step towards safeguarding our emotional well-being and building a solid self-esteem, independent of the opinions and reactions of others. Understanding the manipulation tactics employed by toxic individuals is an invaluable tool in this process. Deciphering their patterns, their guilt-laden words, or their attempts to control our emotions allows us to unmask their strategies and shield ourselves from their negative influences. This insight empowers us to claim our space in interactions and dialogues. By recognizing these unhealthy dynamics, we can set clear boundaries. Are you ready to start this journey? I warn you that this will not be a pleasant journey. We will describe signs that perhaps you have not noticed. They can be painful, but it is necessary to discover them and take immediate actions to protect ourselves from toxicity and protect our well-being. You feel belittled. In the context of a toxic relationship, whether with a partner or a family member, the constant disregard for your feelings should not be seen as a simple lack of consideration, but as a subtle but harmful strategy of emotional control. Take, for example, a family gathering, a moment that appears to be calm. In the peaceful setting of a family gathering, where cordiality and the exchange of experiences should be the norm, a darker reality often hides. The presence of a toxic individual who, like an emotional vampire, sucks the energy and attention of others, silencing the voices and minimizing the experiences of others. Imagine this scenario. The family dinner takes place in an apparently calm environment. Between bites and laughter, you decide to share an interesting anecdote that happened to you during the day, driven by that fundamental human need to be heard, recognized, and feel part of the group. However, your words barely find an echo in the room. Like a specter lurking in the shadows, the toxic person emerges from their slumber to interrupt your story, abruptly change the subject, or, in the worst case, redirect the conversation toward their own concerns and experiences, completely overshadowing your story. This toxic pattern repeats itself over and over again, like a macabre ritual that silences your voice and, by extension, your presence in the meeting. You feel invisible, frustrated, and even humiliated, while the toxic person struts around like the queen of the scene, absorbing the attention and limelight that rightfully belongs to you. The consequences of this type of behavior are devastating. The toxic person not only robs you of the opportunity to express yourself and be heard, but also erodes your self-esteem, makes you feel inferior, and can even isolate you from the rest of the group. But not only that, beyond silencing the contributions of others, toxic people can also use other strategies to exclude and control. For example, they may make sarcastic or hurtful comments, mock others' opinions, or even threaten them. These behaviors can have a negative impact on the mental and emotional health of victims who may feel insecure, anxious, and depressed. This pattern of behavior is far from ordinary and suggests a deeply unbalanced dynamic within the relationship. It hints at a fundamental asymmetry in the power and influence each individual possesses, which could lead to unhealthy patterns of interaction and communication. The non-trivial nature of this behavior highlights the complexity of the underlying dynamics at play, suggesting that there are more deep-rooted issues that must be addressed to restore balance and harmony within the relationship. Instead of focusing on your needs and feelings, the toxic person manipulates the situation to revolve around their own desires and problems. Doing so not only ignores or minimizes your experiences, but also makes you feel invisible and insignificant. This insidious pattern of behavior undermines your self-esteem and erodes your sense of worth, leaving you emotionally drained and belittled. When your voice is repeatedly ignored, it can generate a series of negative consequences that affect your emotional well-being and your ability to express yourself freely. The constant invalidation of your opinions and feelings can lead you to doubt the validity of your own perceptions. This is because the repetition of this pattern makes you question your ability to discern reality and sows doubt about the veracity of your own experiences. The feeling that your words don't resonate during a casual conversation can be a warning sign of toxic behavior in the interaction and not just simple rudeness or lack of interest. You feel constantly criticized. Scrutinize these criticisms, especially when they come from someone whose opinion you value deeply. They carry devastating weight. They go deeper, not only questioning your superficial decisions, but also planting insidious doubts about your intrinsic worth and abilities. The damage inflicted by such negative comments extends beyond mere momentary insecurities, undermining the foundations of your self-confidence and causing you to internalize a distorted view of yourself. This distorted perception can become a vicious cycle in which each criticism reinforces an increasingly diminished image of one's self-worth. Faced with this, dynamic reflection becomes a crucial tool. It is essential to recognize that constant judgment reflects more on the character and insecurities of the critic than on the alleged defects of the criticized. This realization not only disarms some of the most potent weapons in a manipulator's arsenal, but also begins the process of rebuilding self-respect. By questioning and rejecting the validity of these criticisms, you begin to redefine and reaffirm your own value. While challenging, it is essential to restoring the integrity of your sense of self-worth. You feel guilty or responsible for the other person's problems. Immersing yourself in a relationship with a toxic person can be an emotionally draining experience, where guilt becomes a heavy chain that imprisons us and distances us from our well-being. These people, experts in emotional manipulation, weave a web of lies, blackmail, and psychological games that make us feel responsible for their problems, even when we are not. But why do we fall into the trap of guilt? The reasons that lead us to feel guilty in these types of relationships are complex and diverse. Toxic people are masters of blaming. They know our weak points, our insecurities, and they exploit them mercilessly. They make us feel that we are the cause of their misfortunes, their failures, and their unhappiness. Since we were children, we have been instilled with the idea that we must be good Samaritans. Parents and teachers have taught us that helping others is a virtue, and that is a very good thing. It is plausible. It makes us more human. But toxic people take advantage of this principle. They make us their saviors, the only ones capable of solving their problems. And if we fail to do so, the blame falls on us. And if we already have a negative image of ourselves, it is easier to believe the words of the toxic person. We assume that we are not good enough, that we do not deserve to be loved, and that therefore it is our fault that the relationship does not work. The consequences of feeling guilty become a downward spiral, not only damaging our self-esteem and our mental health, but also having repercussions on all aspects of our lives. Guilt generates constant emotional discomfort, an internal pressure that prevents us from enjoying the present and fills us with fears and insecurities. Believing that we are the cause of the other person's problems makes us feel inadequate and worthless. It fills us with fear and insecurity. Guilt makes us afraid to make decisions, to express our desires, and to defend our rights. We begin to have problems in relationships with others. By focusing on guilt and the toxic person's problems, we neglect our relationships with family and friends, which can lead to conflict and distancing. You feel controlled or manipulated. Being immersed in a toxic relationship is like being in a game of power and emotional imbalance where you are the target, the toy to be destroyed. In the dark world of toxic relationships, control and manipulation become lethal weapons that lacerate the emotional well-being of the victim. Toxic people, experts in weaving webs of lies and psychological games, seek to dominate and subjugate their partner, creating a suffocating and oppressive environment where freedom and autonomy fade. Toxic people use an arsenal of tactics to control and manipulate their partner. Furthermore, the toxic person always plays the victim of the situation. Among the most common strategies are emotional blackmail, threatening to leave the relationship, hurt themselves, or blame the victim if they do not behave as they want. Applying gaslighting, distorting reality, denying obvious facts, or making the victim doubt their own perception. They undermine your self-esteem with hurtful comments and disqualifications, making you feel inferior and inadequate. You deny your interests in favor of the other. The continued focus on the other can result in a denial of self, our basic needs, and a gradual abandonment of our interests and self-care. Such an imbalance not only perpetuates the toxic relationship, but can also lead to emotional and physical exhaustion, where we find ourselves without energy and resources to care for ourselves. Recognizing this dynamic is essential to begin to reverse the pattern of self-neglect. It is crucial to understand that your primary responsibility is to yourself, and that taking care of your own needs is not an act of selfishness, but of self-respect. You feel insecure or have low self-esteem. Feeling insecure or with low self-esteem in a toxic relationship is a distorted mirage that distances you from your real value. In the abyss of toxic relationships, insecurity and low self-esteem become shadows that darken our perception of ourselves. Toxic people, like skilled puppeteers, manipulate our emotions and make us doubt our own abilities, making us feel small, insignificant, and incapable of being loved. But if before relating to this person we were happy, we felt good about ourselves and our environment, where do these roots of insecurity come from? From the seeds of insecurity sown in a soil specially fertilized by the same manipulator, applying strategies such as constant criticism, a bombardment of hurtful comments and disqualifications that erode our self-image and make us feel inferior. Hateful comparisons. They compare us with other people, real or imaginary, to highlight our supposed flaws and make us feel incapable of reaching the level of others. Devaluation of our achievements. They minimize or ignore our successes, making us feel that they are not important or that they are not enough. Silent treatment. They use silence as a weapon to punish us or make us feel guilty, generating deep insecurity and emotional instability. The repercussions of insecurity and low self-esteem in a toxic relationship are devastating for our well-being. We lose confidence in ourselves. We doubt our abilities, our opinions, and our decisions. The fear of not being good enough paralyzes us and prevents us from taking risks or pursuing our dreams. We constantly seek approval and validation from the toxic person, which makes us emotionally dependent. We impose unattainable goals on ourselves to try to compensate for our supposed shortcomings, which generates frustration and discomfort. You feel bad after interacting with them. Toxic people are like emotional vampires. They drain our energy and well-being with their presence. Their interaction leaves a trail of negative emotions, such as emptiness, sadness, or anger, that leave us feeling exhausted and devalued. This is because their negative comments and behaviors can affect your mood and self-esteem. But do you know why they affect us this way? Because they make hurtful and devaluing comments to us, such as constant criticism. Their words loaded with judgment and negativity undermine our self-confidence and make us question our abilities and capabilities. They use hurtful humor to ridicule our ideas, feelings, or actions, making us feel humiliated and insecure. They minimize our successes and downplay our efforts, sowing doubt about our abilities and achievements. Their negativity is exhausting. Their negative and critical perspective on life infects us, clouding our optimism and filling us with pessimism and discouragement. They focus on the negative aspects of people, situations, and events, draining our energy and enthusiasm. They ignore or minimize positive experiences, preventing us from fully enjoying life. They infect us with their pessimism, making us feel unhappy. Social isolation. Social isolation, far from being a simple consequence of toxic relationships, becomes a strategic tool carefully designed by manipulative individuals to strengthen their control over their victims. This strategy is characterized by subtlety and sophistication, making it even more difficult to identify and combat. The toxic person can subtly create conflicts between the victim and their loved ones by gossiping, exaggerating small problems, or even making up false stories. They limit the victim's access to important information about their friends or family, hiding messages, calls, or even making excuses to avoid them meeting. The toxic person monopolizes the victim's time, preventing them from spending time with their loved ones or participating in activities that make them feel good. They criticize the victim's friends and family, minimizing their importance or sowing doubts about their intentions. They convince the victim that no one else understands or loves them, making them feel alone and dependent on the toxic person. Plant seeds of mistrust and conflict. Imagine that every time you plan to meet up with friends, the toxic person only makes derogatory comments about them, and you, to avoid conflicts, decide to walk away. This insidious process of isolation not only weakens your ties to the outside world, but also amplifies your emotional dependence on the manipulator. As friends and family begin to seem less trustworthy, the toxic person is placed in a position of disproportionate power, allowing them to shape your perception of reality. Being alone and without support, we become more vulnerable to their manipulations and the guilt they instill in us. It is crucial, therefore, to be aware of these isolation tactics and recognize their deeply manipulative motivations, understanding that isolation is a form of control. Fear to loneliness. The fear of facing loneliness is a powerful force that can trap people in toxic relationships. Loneliness, often described as a state to be avoided at all costs. It is manipulated by the toxic person, who may imply or explicitly state that without them, you would be hopelessly alone. This manipulation tactic fuels insecurity and triggers the primary fear of isolation, making the option of remaining in a painful dynamic seem less threatening than loneliness. This form of emotional coercion is deeply insidious because it attacks self-esteem and the self-perception of being lovable and capable of forming meaningful connections outside the current relationship. The fear of not finding another love or not being worthy of healthy relationships can be paralyzing. Facing this fear is a challenge that requires a reconsideration of what it means to be alone. Loneliness, contrary to what is often perceived, can be a period of personal growth and self-reflection, an opportunity to strengthen the relationship with oneself and develop emotional independence. Seeing loneliness not as a sentence, but as a phase of freedom and personal discovery, can help dispel fear and encourage steps toward detachment from relationships that drain more than they nourish. How to let go of a toxic person. Relationships with toxic people, whether as a partner, family, friends, or even co-workers, can have a devastating impact on our emotional well-being, especially when it comes to stress and anxiety. Toxic people are often unpredictable and volatile in their behaviors, creating an environment of constant uncertainty and chaos. This generates a permanent state of alert in the victim, anticipating possible conflicts or negative reactions. In these relationships, the victim feels that they have no control over the situation since the toxic person constantly manipulates, criticizes, and controls. This generates a feeling of helplessness, increasing stress and anxiety levels. Letting go of a toxic person is not easy, but it is possible, and here are some tips that can help you. Analyze how you feel after interacting with them. Do they drain your energy? Do they make you feel bad about yourself? Recognize the toxicity of the relationship. The first step is to recognize that you are in a toxic relationship. Once you do, you can start taking steps to get out of it. The understanding and acceptance that one is in a toxic relationship marks the fundamental beginning of the disengagement process. This, a crucial step, involves discerning that certain dynamics that were previously considered normal or justifiable are actually manifestations of manipulation and emotional abuse. An enlightening moment may come when you recognize that it is neither healthy nor acceptable for someone to dictate what you should wear or who you should interact with. This realization highlights how much your autonomy has been compromised and serves as an awakening to the need to regain control over your own life. The process of recognizing toxicity in a relationship is often painful and complex, as it can involve unraveling layers of denial and confronting uncomfortable truths about oneself and one's partner or family member. However, this step is essential to begin the recovery of one's own identity and personal integrity. Additionally, this recognition often requires you to reflect on repetitive patterns of behavior, question the intentions behind the toxic person's actions, and crucially evaluate the impact of these actions on your mental and emotional health. Set limits. It is important to establish clear boundaries with the toxic person. Firmly communicate what behaviors you do not tolerate and what type of relationship you want to maintain. Establish healthy limits and learn to say no. These are fundamental steps to regain your autonomy and emotional health. If you need to express your discomfort to the toxic person, do so clearly, honestly, and assertively. Use phrases like, "I don't feel comfortable when," or "I would like you to respect." This act of setting boundaries is not only a means to prevent abuse, but also a declaration of self-respect and a crucial step towards strengthening your value. Prioritizing this process is a vital part of your personal development and reinforces your ability to defend yourself from negative influences. This shift in perspective is vital to breaking the cycle of sacrifice and rediscovering the importance of putting yourself first. Reduce contact. Reducing contact with toxic people is a fundamental step towards emotional well-being. Minimizing interaction with toxic people is a crucial decision to safeguard your mental health and emotional well-being. While completely eliminating contact may not always be possible, especially in certain environments such as work or family, there are strategies to significantly reduce its negative influence on your life. If possible, limit or eliminate contact with these people, prioritize your mental health, and surround yourself with positive and supportive individuals. End the relationship. If the toxic person doesn't respect your boundaries, you may need to end the relationship. This not only applies to a relationship, but also to any member of your family, whether parents or siblings, who are the closest ties we have. This can be difficult, but it is important for your own well-being. Take care of yourself. It is important that you take care of yourself during this process. Spend time doing things that make you happy and feel good. In the midst of the challenges of facing toxic people and reducing contact with them, self-care becomes a fundamental pillar for your emotional well-being and your comprehensive healing. Prioritizing your self-care is not an act of selfishness, but rather a gesture of self-love and an investment in your mental health. Dedicating time to activities that bring you satisfaction, joy, and relaxation will allow you to recharge your batteries, strengthen your self-esteem, and face difficult situations with greater resilience. Dedicate time to what you are passionate about and generates positive emotions in you. Whether it's pursuing a hobby, reading a book, listening to music, spending time in nature, or doing creative activities, find what makes you feel good and connect with your personal enjoyment. Adopting a healthy lifestyle will give you the tools you need to deal with stress and difficult emotions. Make sure you get enough sleep, eat nutritiously, exercise regularly, and practice relaxation techniques such as meditation or yoga. Dedicate time to introspection and self-knowledge. Practice meditation, write in a personal journal, or do activities that allow you to connect with your emotions, thoughts, and values. Self-care is an ongoing and personalized process. Listen to your body and your emotions and find what works best for you to maintain your well-being. Focusing on your own well-being does not mean ignoring the situation with toxic people. However, by taking care of yourself, you will be strengthening yourself to face challenges with greater fortitude and move towards a fuller and more satisfying life. Take care of your self-esteem. Remember your value and strengths. Don't let the opinions of others define who you are or what you are capable of. Strengthening your self-esteem is an act of self-love and an invaluable shield against toxic opinions that may try to overshadow your value. Remember that you are a unique and unrepeatable person with talents, abilities, and qualities that make you special. Remember that your value does not lie in what you achieve, what you own, or the opinions of others. You are valuable for the simple fact of existing. Recognize your qualities, strengths, and talents, and do not compare them with those of others. Be kind and understanding with yourself, especially during difficult times. We all make mistakes and experience negative emotions. Learn to forgive yourself and treat yourself with the same respect and affection that you would give to a dear friend. Recognize and celebrate your successes, big and small. Every achievement, no matter how small it seems, is a step forward on your personal path. You deserve to be applauded. Your self-esteem is a project in constant construction. There will be days when you feel stronger and more confident, and others when you feel more vulnerable. The important thing is that you do not give up and continue working on cultivating a solid self-esteem that allows you to shine with your own light. Reconnect. Reconnecting with those who truly support and value you is key to breaking the cycle of isolation and regaining autonomy over your own social and emotional life. This reconnection serves not only to restore healthy relationships, but also to strengthen your resilience against future attempts at manipulation. Additionally, reconnecting with friends and family can restore social support that may have eroded during the period of isolation, typical of toxic relationships. These connections are essential to remember and reinforce your identity outside toxic influences, helping to regain self-esteem and confidence, rediscovering who you are, your interests, passions, and values. Seek support. If you feel overwhelmed by toxic interactions, a therapist can help you develop coping strategies to protect your mental health. Therapy can be an invaluable tool at this stage, offering a safe space to process and resolve residual issues that may have arisen during the relationship. Working with a therapist helps unravel harmful patterns and build strategies for a healthier future. If you are struggling to let go of a toxic person, seek support from friends and family who can provide the necessary support during and after the transition. Therapy provides a safe space to explore the complexities of your experiences, dysfunctional thinking patterns, and learning strategies to change them. Additionally, support groups offer the opportunity to share experiences and solutions with people facing similar challenges. Engaging in these activities helps build a solid foundation of self-awareness and self-acceptance, key elements for emotional resilience as you develop greater clarity about your needs and limits. Additionally, you gain skills to better manage interpersonal relationships, improving your ability to protect yourself from toxic relationships and build healthier, more rewarding relationships. Develop an exit plan. Creating a strategic exit plan is essential when deciding to separate from a toxic relationship. This plan must cover practical and emotional aspects that guarantee a safe and organized transition to a new phase of life. Practical considerations regarding finances, housing, and even legal matters, if applicable, must be meticulously planned. This could include creating an independent financial reserve, exploring temporary or permanent housing options, and understanding your legal rights and available resources. Emotional preparation. Emotional preparation also includes strategies for dealing with possible retaliation or attempts at reconciliation from the toxic person. Planning ahead allows you to avoid hasty decisions that could lead to less favorable outcomes or increase the risk of returning to the toxic relationship. With a well-structured plan, you will not only secure the necessary resources for a new beginning, but it will also strengthen your resolve and resilience. Prepare to move forward. This step is an empowering act that demonstrates commitment to your own long-term health and well-being. Personal reconstruction, the phase after the end of a toxic relationship, is crucial for recovery and development. Taking the time to rebuild your life is essential to healing emotional wounds and establishing a new sense of normality. Another vital step on this journey might involve revisiting old hobbies, exploring new interests, or simply allowing yourself to experiment and fail without judgment. Each activity and interaction acts as a brick in the reconstruction of a new, more authentic and resilient identity. Develop your emotional resilience. In the whirlwind of toxic relationships, emotional resilience emerges as a guiding light toward recovery and empowerment. Strengthening this internal capacity allows us to navigate emotional attacks with greater fortitude, protect ourselves from their harmful effects, and ultimately heal and thrive. Cultivating emotional resilience is crucial to protecting yourself from and recovering from toxic relationships. This process involves recognizing how to manage your feelings and strengthening capabilities that allow you to handle interpersonal challenges more effectively. Resilience can be built through practices such as meditation therapy and engaging in support. Emotional resilience is not about denying or minimizing the pain inflicted by toxic people. Rather, it is about developing internal tools and strategies that allow us to understand that we are not responsible for the actions or behaviors of others. Identify and accept our emotions, both positive and negative, and focus on what we can control, our own actions, thoughts, and reactions. Stoicism, an ancient Greek and Roman philosophy, proposes a practical approach to facing life's adversities. In the context of toxic relationships, cultivating emotional resilience becomes a fundamental tool to protect yourself and recover from their harmful effects. Toxic relationships are powerful testimonies of the human capacity for improvement and transformation. They serve as inspiration and proof that it is possible not only to survive after a toxic relationship, but also to thrive, achieving a full and satisfying life. This process of personal reconstruction is a testament to human resilience and an invitation to recognize and celebrate your own strength and capacity for renewal. Stoic philosophy offers a valuable perspective on how to deal with toxic people and relationships. While not using the exact term toxic, the Stoics did address concepts such as virtue, reason, self-discipline, and acceptance as tools for navigating interpersonal difficulties. The Stoics believe that our emotional well-being depends largely on how we perceive and judge situations. They emphasize that it is not the events themselves that cause us suffering, but rather our interpretations and reactions to them. In the context of toxic relationships, this means that we have no control over the behavior of others, but we can control our own perception and response. We can choose not to internalize criticism or manipulation, nor allow it to define our value. For the Stoics, virtue is the basis of a full and meaningful life. Cultivating virtues such as wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance allow us to act with integrity, make rational decisions, face challenges with courage, and maintain emotional balance. In the case of toxic relationships, virtue guides us to establish clear boundaries, communicate our needs assertively, and defend our well-being without descending into anger, resentment, or victimization. The Stoics recommend the practice of equanimity and compassion. This allows us to remain calm and composed in the face of adversity. In the context of toxic relationships, equanimity helps us maintain serenity in the face of manipulations or provocations, avoiding falling into impulsive or emotional reactions. Compassion, on the other hand, allows us to understand the other person's motivations and limitations without validating their harmful behavior. In short, Stoic philosophy offers no magic solutions for dealing with toxic people and relationships. However, its principles provide us with a practical framework to strengthen our emotional resilience, make wise decisions, and build healthier, more satisfying relationships. We hope this guide has been useful to you in identifying and combating toxic behaviors in your daily interactions. Remember to recognize these patterns is the first step to transforming your relationships. Getting out of a toxic relationship is not easy, but it is possible. If you find yourself in a situation like this, seek support from friends, family, or mental health professionals. Remember that you deserve respect, understanding, and a relationship that makes you feel valued and loved. If you liked our analysis today, don't forget to share your experiences in the comments so you can help me strengthen our community. Give us a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any content, and we can continue walking together through the knowledge of fascinating and complex human relationships and empowering Stoic wisdom.